Hello and welcome to another episode of UK Media Warrior. Today we're going to be looking at Independence Day Resurgence, a film I've been looking forward to as I'm a big fan of the original Independence Day. This one has had its ups and downs getting to a release. It's been 20 years since the original came out in '96, and along the way both Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin have stated that they weren't really intending for there to be a sequel to the original film. And when you look back at the original, it was pretty much an all-encompassing film. It didn't set itself up for a sequel in any shape or means. The story was told, it had an ending, and that was fine. That's how it was, just a standalone film. But over the years since, for whatever reasons, supposedly after 9/11 especially, Emmerich and Devlin tried to come up with ideas for a sequel to push forward with perhaps a trilogy of films. The trilogy depending on how well the sequel does at the box office. Now, it's only got around 33% on Rotten Tomatoes at the moment, which means it's negative critical response from the critics. Okay. But I think it's going to be one of those films which might last a little. It might have it won't be long legs, but it might have some staying power for a couple more weekends. It's done phenomenally abroad. Obviously, it pretty much tanked in the US, but abroad it's doing very, very, very well. Almost better than any Emmerich film released to date. So it will probably just about put in enough money for the studios to say, yeah, okay, we'll risk a third film in the trilogy and see how we get on. Obviously that isn't guaranteed, we really don't know. But is it a bad film? Now, this is where the problem comes in. A lot of people lately, especially after all the hoo-ha about Batman vs Superman, critics not liking it, fans loving it, it got a bit stupid. I mean, a lot of people are saying, ignore critics. Critics don't know what the hell they're on about. You're going to enjoy the films. Don't look at Rotten Tomatoes. If we didn't have critics, these are supposedly people who know the film industry, who know films. But at the end of the day, they're just human beings like us who go and watch a film, come out and give their opinion. At the end of the day, that's all it is, an opinion. Rotten Tomatoes, whatever the score may be, is a bunch of people's opinion. That doesn't mean it's going to be yours. And if you listen to any critics, most of them are quite open and say, look, this is what we think about it. You might have a totally different view on it, and that's absolutely fine. If you enjoy it, great, fantastic. That's great. We love that. Because at the end of the day, films are their bread and butter. It's their business. They want fans to go to the film. They want people to go to the films and enjoy them. Whatever they might say about the film, they want you to enjoy it. They're not, out there to make you hate films or not go and see films. They're just giving you their honest opinion, as I do. Well, I might like, you might not. But so Independence Day, as I say, as a big fan of the original, I was really hoping this one would be a great film. I mean, they've had 20 years to get it ready, which actually is the tagline of the film. Sorry, that wasn't an unintended joke. Yeah, they had 20 years to get ready, so did they, is the tagline. But it's not as good as the original film. Now, the original film, this is a 2-hour film. Independence Day Resurgence is a 2-hour film, 120 minutes. The other one was longer, it was like 145, 146 minutes, but it didn't feel like it. I watched it recently before I went to see this new one, and it doesn't feel like over 2 hours worth of film because it keeps everything nice and tight. There's nothing in that film that is unnecessary. Any exposition is required, the action scenes are tight, the editing is perfect, so it runs fluidly. Is it just a popcorn action film? Well, yes, of course it is. But it doesn't try and be anything more than that. But it's a well-made, well-edited film. This one is longer and it feels longer. There are segments of it which could easily be cut out and would not hurt the film in any shape or form. There are certain casting choices which have obviously been in the news. Will Smith refusing to come back because the studio wouldn't meet his $50 million salary for the next two films, this one and the supposed third film in the trilogy. So they got around that by casting somebody else as Hillier's son. Now, considering that in the original film, Stephen Hillier wasn't this kid's biological dad. He was basically dating this kid's mum, and they got married in the original film. So this kid isn't biologically Will Smith's son. However, when you see him in this film, and especially at the start, because there's this scene in the White House where he's standing in the corridor waiting to go in and see the president, and there's a big picture of Will Smith in his flight gear as Stephen Hillier from the first film on the wall. And you're looking at these two characters, and they couldn't have cast anyone else who looked any more like Will Smith if they tried. And I honestly don't know why they did it. This kid, as I say, isn't Will Smith's biological son. In the film, Stephen Hillier's biological son, so he doesn't have to look anything like Will Smith. But when you see the film, he looks, the ears, the hair, the facial, he looks like Will Smith's real son. And it's just weird, because if you remember the first film, I know they couldn't get Will Smith, but did they have to go this much overboard that they cast someone who looks like a doppelganger for Will Smith as a younger Will Smith now? It's just weird. But obviously some of the original cast come back. You've got Jeff Goldblum, he's back as Levinson. Bill Pullman's back as the president. Thomas Whitmore from the first film. So that's cool. We've got some connection there. And Brent Spiner's back as Dr. Oakham. He's been in a coma for the last 20 years, and thanks to the aliens coming back, he awakens. Just in time to do his incredible, over-the-top performance. You thought Dr. Oakham was over the top and a little bit weird in the first film? Yeah, you haven't seen nothing yet. Wait till you see this film. I mean, it's almost like Brent went off the rails. Brent Spiner went off the rails playing this one. I mean, he's just so over the top. It's cringeworthy, and it's terrible because Brent Spiner's Data. He's a fantastic actor. So whether they told him to play it like this, whether they said to him, okay, this character's been in a coma for 20 years. He's obviously affected by the aliens. He's got like a mental connection with the aliens. So play him a little bit weird. And Brent just took that to the 9th degree, as it were. But yeah, so that ruins the film a little bit. There's a scene for Bill Pullman where he's standing on like is in like a hangar bay where they put their new jets that aren't there at the moment. There's probably like 2 or 3 jets in this massive hangar, and he's talking to Jeff Goldblum's character Levinson, and it's basically another speech. It's not like the first speech, which Bill Pullman was famous for in the original Independence Day, which has gone down as perhaps one of the most famous speeches by an American president on film. But this film's attempt to give Bill Pullman another shot at doing a famous speech. But it's weakened because, like I say, he's standing in this massive landing bay with just a few technicians around, and he's talking to Levinson. He's not talking to a crowd of people. He's just talking one-on-one with Levinson, and his voice gets louder and louder, so the other technicians are looking over saying, what's going on over there, what's that bloke talking about? And you know, he gets more riled and more passionate, and so he has this speech moment, but there is no crowds of people, no crowds of pilots ready to fly off to fight and just trying to spur people on with this pep talk. There's nothing like that. So it's like, really? You almost feel embarrassed, or I almost felt embarrassed for Pullman. I mean, it's like, they say, okay, we're going to give you another speech, Bill. This is going to be fantastic. You're going to love it. But it's not as good. The speech isn't as good. The fact that he's in this huge hangar with these few technicians, nobody's listening to him. It's just embarrassing. And it cuts to Levinson once, and the look on Jeff Goldblum's face is almost like, what are you telling me all this for? You know, it's like, I hope you're preaching to the choir here. I'm alone. I'm a guy. Hey, you know, I know what you're trying to tell me. So that was no. Also, they've recast, or at least the young girl who played Whitmore's daughter in the first film is still an actress, but they didn't cast her, which I feel is a bit of a missed opportunity. They could have done. I mean, the girl they've cast in her place, Maker Monroe, who plays Patricia Whitmore in this one. I've never heard of her before. I'm sure she's been in other stuff. And she does fine for what she needs to do, but I think it would have been good to have the original actress back. I mean, it wouldn't have hurt, and she couldn't have done any worse, so why not keep that connectivity with the original film? I just thought it would have been a nice touch. Probably the same could be said for the kid who played Stephen Hillier's son in the original film. They could have brought him back, but anyway. So the film itself, it has some stumbling problems. There's a whole sequence where Levinson's dad, do you remember the old guy, the old Jewish guy in the original film who was Levinson's dad? Judd Hirsch plays Julius Levinson. That's it, Judd Hirsch. Doesn't look any older. I don't think the guy's aged. From what I remember, like I say, I watched Independence Day before I went to see Resurgence, and he looks almost the same age, even though it's been 20 years. So that's a bit weird. And he's a fantastic, great actor. I love him. I've seen him in a couple of TV shows recently, and he's really, really very good, very good. But all they have him do in this film is sit on a boat out at sea as the alien ship lands, and he has to survive that, and you don't know whether he has or not. Then all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, 4 kids who you have no idea who these kids are, you see them driving this car through ruined, wrecked streets of this city, and they come upon his boat and they rescue him. And then basically he takes care of these 4 kids for the rest of the film, drives them around, and just as they're about to run out of gas, they find this school bus with this bunch of young school kids sitting outside because the drivers ran off. So he puts his kids and the school kids all on the bus, and he drives the school bus and is taking them to Area 51. But it's an unnecessary chunk of film. We didn't need to see that. It doesn't lend anything to the film itself, to the plot line. Nothing at all. We don't need to see these kids. There's no connection with them. We don't know who the hell they are. We don't know their parents. It's just not necessary. To be fair, Judd Hirsch's character in this film isn't necessary. In the original film he was, because he was like a sounding board for his son. He was like the emotional connection that the two Levinsons had together. Together they were stronger. So you got it in the first film. But in this film, he just comes over as an unnecessary character that's only in there because he was in the first film and they felt like they had to give him something to do. So, hey, you can be on this school bus driving all these kids around that we don't really give a shit about. It's not necessary. I mean, this is over a 2-hour film. This is 2 hours, 10 minutes, something like that. It was too long at 2 hours. It could have easily come in at an hour and a half, an hour 45. But to be 2 hours, 10 minutes, and to have like 10 minutes of the film be him shuttling these kids around is needless and is stupid. It doesn't add anything and it ruins the film. It slows the film down. But there are some unanswered questions. I mean, you've got this new technology that the humans have been devising over the last 20 years. And you find out that in Africa, one of the ships from the original film actually landed and started drilling. Now, this comes out of nowhere because you had assumed that all of the ships had been shot down in the original film. That was how it ended, with showing scenes of different crashed alien ships all over the world. But this ship in Africa supposedly landed and started drilling, and the Africans there have been fighting a land war with the aliens for years. Why nobody had gone to help them isn't explained, but you get this warlord who is basically in control of the area of Africa where this ship landed, and him and his father and his family and his people have been fighting this long guerrilla war against the aliens for years, and they're really good at killing aliens now. And you only meet him because obviously the landed ship, as the new aliens start coming closer, the new alien ship suddenly lights up. So Levinson's taken there to investigate, and that's where they find out that this one surviving alien ship that landed and started to drill sent an SOS, sent a distress call before it shut down, or before all the aliens were killed. But it's things like this all the way through the film that make it stutter. It doesn't flow like the first film did. You come out of it, and to start with, when you first come out of it, unless you're really thinking all the way through the film, which you probably won't be, although like I say, there are slow points in this film which gives you time to think about the plot, which is never good. But if you come out and you actually start thinking about it, you realise, well, that didn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, they didn't explain that, why did that happen, who are those people? It's like all the way through there are these problems. Like, why did nobody come and help these Africans fight the aliens at the ship? Why is this one ship that's intact not being taken apart by the world to find its technology? It is an intact spaceship. Get it working and you've got yourself a huge alien spaceship that you can play with. But that was never done. It's like, in the original film, when the mothership was destroyed, it didn't kill all the other aliens. The mothership blowing up wasn't responsible for the other little ships all over the world falling out of the sky and being destroyed. That was, if you remember, they uploaded the virus to the mothership. That took down the shields of the ships on Earth and the fighters, which had allowed the humans to actually fight back. And they found out that to destroy the ships that were hovering over the cities of Earth, they had to fire a missile into that center beam weapon thing, that drill, or whatever you want to call it, in the middle of the ship. That's what brought them down. That is what's said at the end of the film. So destroying the mothership up in space at the end of the first film didn't destroy any of the ships on the ground. That was down to the humans to take out, and they did. Now in this film, we have an alien queen, and we find out that how the alien species work is there are different queens all over the place, and they've all got huge ships, and they all run their own bits, and it's like bees or ants. That's how their society works. So you've got this 3,000 mile wide ship. They actually state it's as big as continental US, and it comes in through the atmosphere and lands over the Atlantic and starts drilling to get the core, the magnetic core of our planet, the molten core of our planet. They need that to sustain their ships. But the thing is, they state in the film, oh, we must have killed an alien queen on that first mothership that we blew up back in the first film. They actually state that. I think it's Levinson who says we must have killed the alien queen on that one. In this one, the alien queen eventually gets killed, and when she dies, all of the fighters, the alien fighters, start falling out of the sky. And the huge 3,000 mile wide alien ship, which has no damage to it, the humans haven't been able to touch it or do anything to it. It lifts off for no apparent reason and retreats. Now, I'm not an entomologist. I don't know about bugs other than a few bits and pieces I might have watched on TV or whatever. But I'm pretty sure if a queen dies for an ant colony or a bee colony, they just do another one. They just make another one. So if that's the case, first off, why the queen dying? Did it make all the fighters crash? That didn't happen in the first film. And secondly, why would they retreat? I mean, okay, the fighters all started to crash as soon as the alien queen died. So we're assuming that her dying made all the pilots in these ships die or go weird or black out or whatever, which is why they all crashed. But if that was the case, why did the ship, the big ship, retreat. There must have been aliens still active on that ship to command it to lift off. It wasn't going to do it on autopilot, or at least it's not explained in that way. So if there are aliens on that ship that are still alive, on a 3,000 mile wide ship that have complete control of the planet, really, we can't touch that ship. Why did it retreat? Why didn't they just create another queen, stay on the planet that they're pretty much conquering? They're only 2 minutes away from taking the molten core anyway. Do the 2 minutes, take the molten core, finish us humans off once and for all, and then go and make themselves a new queen. It just doesn't make sense. And another problem, I know I said I actually quite like this film, and I did quite like it, but obviously there are problems. Another problem is they sandwich in this new alien race, a benevolent alien race, who have been fighting the bad aliens for years and have been pretty much wiped out, all but this white globe, which looks like Galt out of the Day the Earth Stood Still. Do you remember him? With that like big slit across his eyes that's sort of like widened, and then he fired beams out of it and that sort of thing. If you just imagine the head of Galt, it looked very similar. As soon as I saw it, it looked very similar. It's just this big white ball with this slit across the middle that lights up. But this alien ball appears over the moon base, and I think, if I remember correctly, the moon base has just found out that they've lost the Saturn base, because supposedly we have a base on Saturn, and this ball appears through a wormhole hovering over the moon base. Doesn't make any dangerous moves at all. It just hangs there, and rather than trying to make communication with it, which is what Levinson wants to do, open up communications, the new president, the lady president who's there at the time, who's in her first year of office, decides, no, we're going to blow this shit out of it. And that's what they do. And even though Levinson's saying, these aren't the same aliens, these are different aliens, we can't attack them, we can't be fighting two lots of aliens in this universe, she doesn't listen and just orders the big beam weapon on the moon to fire and take down this alien ship. Which means Levinson has to get a lift from Liam Hemsworth's character, another one of the Hemsworth brothers, and pop up there, pick up the wreckage of the alien ship, bring it back to Area 51, and find out that it's actually got this smaller white globe, as I've just said, with a little eye across the middle, that tells basically this expositional point about how there's a resistance out there in the galaxy fighting the aliens. And it has all this interstellar technology that it wants to give to us, and it had turned up to try and evacuate as many of us as we could to this planet where the resistance is housed, because it knew that the alien queen was on its way to destroy the Earth. But obviously us shooting it down has prevented that from happening, so it now wants us to destroy it so the aliens can't get a hold of it and find out the location of the resistance homeworld. More expositional crap that we didn't need. The only reason this was jammed in there was to make room for the third film, because the third film is all about our interstellar battle with the aliens, how we're going to take the fight to them now. But that's the problem with some films, when they're getting ready for a sequel or for a trilogy of films, the first film always suffers because they jam so much crap in there to make a foundation for the rest of the films. It hurts that original film. It really does. So we didn't really need that. This film, we don't need a trilogy of Independence Day films. If they wanted to make a sequel to the first one, fine, but just have the aliens coming back in response to a distress call and us fighting it out with the aliens. That's all we really needed to see. And if by some chance we've invented technology that allows us to take our fight to them afterwards, let it happen on our own morals, our own ability to get that technology from the aliens we're already fighting. They can obviously travel interstellar distances, so we could get the tech from their ships and go out after them ourselves. We didn't need this third alien being, whatever, to come in with this, oh yeah, I'm leading this resistance cell, and you know, you guys are so good, you're now in charge, I'm putting you in charge of our resistance. No, really, we don't need any of that. So yeah, it's not as good as the first one. It's overlong. It has bloated sequences that aren't required, as I say, like the Judd Hirsch sequences, the old man with the kids, not needed. The casting is a little bit suspect in places. The acting is a little bit suspect in places, although Jeff Goldblum and Bill Pullman try their best. And if they do get enough money out of this one to make a third one, I really hope they streamline it a bit more. Make it 2 hours or less, and just give us a good popcorn action film like the first one was. That's why everyone loves the first one, because it did what it said on the tin. It was just a mindless popcorn action sci-fi adventure. And that's what we all wanted this one to be. But they just didn't do it. They just failed. So is it worth seeing on the big screen? Yes. Yes. I mean, some of the effects are fantastic. It does bring up a question of, in the first film you saw and you heard that the aliens had destroyed basically all the major cities of the world, and they'd also taken out NORAD. Now NORAD is housed under Cheyenne Mountain, and yet in this film, when the aliens attack, the president and all of her cabinet are taken to Cheyenne Mountain, which amazingly is still there because they actually show you a scene of the front of it. Now we know these alien weapons can take out cities. I'm pretty sure it could take out one mountain because it would have had to destroy NORAD, which is what it did in the first film. This mountain shouldn't be there. Equally, there are several times in the film where it flicks to different locations around the world where the national monuments are still there. The Eiffel Tower is still there in Paris. Big Ben, Tower Bridge are still there in London. The White House has been rebuilt in Washington looking exactly the same as it was in the original, which might have been the purpose, I suppose. But why would the world bother about building exact duplicates of the original monuments when all this shit's going down? Their world has basically just been attacked by aliens, it's in ruin, and they worry about rebuilding Big Ben, Tower Bridge, the Eiffel Tower, and the White House to the exact same specifications as the originals? Really? I would have thought they would have had bigger and more important things to worry about, but what do I know? So anyway, go and see this film? Yeah, it's 50-50. I would say you can, if you've got a decent sized big TV, wait for it to come out on DVD or Blu-ray maybe. Otherwise, if you've got a quiet weekend, nothing much on you want to do, go and see it. Yeah. But yeah, unfortunately, not as good as the first one. But that's the end of this review. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you got something out of it. If you did enjoy this, please share it on your Facebook page or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.